Alright guys, we are in a new garage because we are going to be installing a new truck part on my dad's 2021 Ram Limited. So a couple days ago was Christmas and we picked him up the FitCAM front and rear camera for his Ram Limited. So as you know, I already have the front and rear camera on my Rebel. Absolutely love it. And since my dad has a Limited, I went ahead and picked it up. It was a good opportunity to get him his own camera. So there's going to be a front camera that's going to replace this front plastic shroud right here. And then there's going to be some cabling run so we could put a rear camera in the back of his truck. Very easy install. And then again, everything runs off of an app so you could stream the videos right from your camera onto your phone. I cover all that in my Rebel video. But for this video, we're going to show you the installation. It's a little bit different because it's a different shroud behind the rear view mirror. So there's a Model A and a Model B shroud when you buy these 2020 or buy the cameras for these newer Ram trucks. And it's all dependent on what sort of features you have. Since my dad has a Limited, he's got all the bells and whistles, which means he needed the Model B. And I'll leave a direct link to this guy down in the description. So we're going to be installing the Model B. So let's get everything taken out of the box and I'll show you the difference between this one and the one in my truck so you know what to look for on your own. All right, so here's everything that comes in the kit with the Model B version. And the Model B, really the only difference is the size of the shroud that goes around the camera. So you can see the shroud is absolutely massive. Whereas mine on my Rebel was just this front portion because I don't have lane departure or anything like that, or lane keep assist, or what was the other, front collision. But when you do, you need a larger shroud because there's a lot more stuff going on behind that mirror, and this matches the contours and everything to the Model B. It's really important that when you're ordering, you order the right one. I hear a lot of people always ordering the wrong one because they don't look or they just assume that they have one versus the other. Model B on this one, Model A on my bare bones Rebel. Anyway, everything else that comes in the kit, you obviously get your camera. It's already pre-wired for the front and rear. If you buy just the front camera, there is only one pigtail, and that's just for power. Whereas on this one, we have the power, and then we have the rear camera pigtail as well. We get our rear camera with plenty of length of wiring, so we can run our camera right to the back of the truck. Again, a little trim shroud here. This goes behind the mirror and just basically gives everything a nice finished look. Then inside the kit, the part that makes the magic happen, this little dongle here. So this plugs in between a factory harness, and then what it does is it gives you a power feed for your mirror. So everything in this particular kit is plug and play. Very simple installation. So let's hop inside the truck and start removing that factory shroud, and I'll show you kind of where to pull, where to pry, so you don't crack any of the plastic. All right, so I pulled the truck outside so we could see much easier. That's a nice little Rebel right there. But basically, the first thing we need to do here is pop this trim piece off. There's a little tiny piece right in the middle. Hopefully you can see it. There's two lines here. What we're going to want to do is pry right at the top and pull it straight down. It's going to take a little bit of force, but there's one clip or two clips on each side. And once you get this guy off, then what we'll do is pry at the sides here to pry the rest of the housing up. All right, so we got that front little piece off here. So this is kind of how it sits in the truck. And really what you want to do is get your fingers right up in here and just give it a good yank. You're not going to break anything. It is plastic. But you can see all the clips are still intact and it looks identical to the factory piece. Now the next thing we're going to do is use our tool that came in the kit and just basically stick our little pry tool in here. And there's clips. There's, I think, 2 clips on each side. And then we'll go around the other side and clip that one out. This is the easier part. Getting this guy off takes a little bit of muscle, but once you get beyond that, it's very easy. So anyway, put this guy up in there, turn it sideways, and it'll pull the factory plastic shroud right off those clips, and then this whole housing will drop down and out, and then we could get the new FitCAM one up and installed. All right, so I got the whole factory trim piece out. You can see there's really not much to it, but really all this is used to do is to just cover up everything that's sitting behind the mirror. There's a lot of wires back there and cameras and sensors and whatnot, so that's the whole intent of this, and that's the reason why it's perforated. So here's the FitCAM side by side. Same contours on the side, just a little bit different here, but other than that, you got the camera hanging down here. But the clips themselves will bounce, or it'll clip right back into the same exact factory position. You got one clip there, there, and there. Same thing, you got a vertical one here, plus the 3 horizontal ones. So let's go ahead and actually first get that dongle installed, and I'll show you how to wire that up, and then we'll get the camera pushed up into place, and then we can start focusing on running the rear camera for the back. So this install overall should take no more than 30 minutes, assuming you are prepared with the tools. All right, so we have our dongle here. It's a white plug, male on one end, female on the other, and then you got your FitCAM plug here. So what we're gonna do is look on the right side of the mirror. There is a plug right about here. We're gonna undo that guy, and then this is what, I need 2 hands to get in there so I don't crack a clip, but this is where this clip plugs into. So you're gonna unplug the factory wire, it's gonna plug into here, This is going to plug right back into that outlet, and then you're going to have your factory power here. So when you put your FitCam back up into place, it's going to plug directly into here. And on the back side of your FitCam, you got 2 wires. You got one that's tagged as rear camera, and then this little shorter one is your power. So this is going to plug directly into this power here, and this is what's going to power both the front and the rear camera. So let's go ahead and get this guy plugged in and get that camera popped up into place. And in case you're wondering, here's what those metal clips look like. So there's one here, and then there's 2 pretty high up, and then one on the bottom corner there. All right, so you can see I got the dongle installed. The power cable for the FitCam's just dangling off on the left side. Everything holds up nice and tight. It's short enough that it's not going to have a bunch of excess wire in here banging around, but it's long enough that it's easy to plug everything in without stressing any of it. I'm going to hold off on installing the camera because I want to run the wires for the rear camera, but since it's raining, I got to get the truck pulled back in the garage, which might mean a little bit sacrifice of lighting, but we'll cover every step here. So we could start diving into running that rear camera. All right, so now we're going to turn our attention to the rear camera. It's nice because you could essentially unplug this camera temporarily while you're running the wires for it. Just make sure you're running the right end to the head unit up front. Basically what we're going to do is I'm going to try to keep this A-pillar on and just wedge the wires in here. But what we'll need to do is pull this weather stripping off, and then we'll go in the back door here and do the same exact thing. We'll have to pull this weather stripping off as well, because what we're going to want to do is get access to the roof, because we're going to run some of that wire up underneath the roof. There's a ton of excess wire here, and it just makes it easier when this gasket's out of the way to run the wires to the rear camera. And we're going to put it right about here, which is where mine's at. Actually, I think it's right over here. But anyway, I have mine right over the rear passenger headrest, and it works out perfect. So that's where we're going to run my dad's here. And then I'll just run the wire up here, up around here. We don't need to remove this pillar. There's enough play in the roof. But just removing this gasket here on the front and rear door just makes life a lot easier. All you got to do is just pull the gasket. This one hasn't been removed yet. Mine has a lot, so it's a little bit looser. But what we'll do is just find a straight section. There you go. And it just slowly comes off there. So we'll get access, pull these down, and then we'll start running that wire, and I'll show you the routing. All right, so I have the wire run right up to where the camera is going to go. There's plenty of length on the head unit itself, so you don't need to have that much whip left over. And then I have the wire tucked up along the windshield here. I didn't have to remove this pillar. There was enough play again here where I could just carefully run that wire right behind the trim panel. Then since I pulled the trim down, you can see the wires running up along that channel there. Goes through the B pillar here, and let's pop out over here and show you. So now I got the rest of the wire here, and like I said, you get a ton of wire here. So now I'm just going to clean this up and tuck some of that wire on each side, so just make a couple little loops here, and then we're going to run the wire right along the C pillar here. It's going to pop out right on the back section here, run along this channel, and then drop straight down. So let's go ahead and run the rest of the wire here. We'll take a look at it once it's all cleaned up. But like I said, it's a lot easier once you remove these little, once you remove the door seal here to get access here. And there's plenty of room up underneath here, enough flex in here that you can move quite a bit of wire up underneath there. So let's go ahead and run the rest of it. Okay, so we ran our wire right up along the windowsill, right up along the roof line here. And then I have it kicked out right behind the mirror, or right behind the C pillar. And then it's going to ultimately stick to the window right here. One thing I will say is wait until you have the camera powered up to aim everything, so you're right between the heated lines and dot matrix here, and also so you had it aimed correctly. Everything tucks nicely. You don't need to remove any sort of panels here. That big plug is actually living right inside the C pillar here, but then all the wires just tucked up over the roof, and I just kind of went back and forth as I ran the wire just to get the right amount of length. So it takes a few times, but ultimately mine's going to mount right there. So let's turn ourselves back to the head unit, get everything plugged in up there, and then we can fire up everything. All right, stop raining temporarily, so we were able to pull everything out so we can actually see what's going on. So here is the rear view camera. This is the wire that runs along the roof line all the way to the back camera. Then I have our power here. This is what's coming out of that little dongle here, and everything is ready to go here. So what I would suggest is plug everything in, and then slowly lower this up to where it lines up with all the clips. Tuck the wires into this housing. There's plenty of room to make sure everything's tucked up in there, and then you should be good to go. We're not going to install that collar yet. I want to get this wired up, get it popped into place, and then I want to make sure that the camera's functioning before I put that collar back on, because that collar is a little bit of a tough one. All right, so the whole module is completely installed. Everything fits nicely in there, nice and taut. I do got to fix the wires a little bit. Actually, you know what? Everything stayed put where it's at. Perfect. So like I said, I did not put that collar on there. Do that last, because that piece is kind of a bear to get out if you put it on too soon. Just make sure your trim is pushed up nicely and it's got a nice good seam along the windshield itself. And then the last thing I want to do before I close up everything is a quick functional test. So if I turn the truck on, you see our lights fire up here, so we're good to go. So it's getting power, everything's active. So let me go in the back and mount that rear camera, and then I can show you how to pair this with your phone. Unfortunately, the battery on my GoPro was dying, so we're going to have to do a quick little voiceovers here. So the first thing for pairing is you're going to want to open up the FitCAM app here and then hit the plus sign. The plus sign is going to bring up a whole bunch of on-screen prompts. What you're looking for is a network called CAR or LHR. That would be your local camera. It basically shows up as a Wi-Fi signal. So we'll go into our Wi-Fi settings here and we can see the camera showing up as CAR. The password is 1234567 I know, very unique. We'll hit OK here, and then the camera connects pretty quickly. Once it connects, we'll go back into the FitCAM app, and then we'll be able to access the camera from there. So, accessing the camera, you're going to hit the blue button on the bottom here. By hitting that, you'll be able to see real-time view of the front and rear cameras here. So right now it defaults to the front camera being the large and the rear being the top left. The last thing we're going to need to do here is go ahead and install that last trim piece. Well, I apologize for the audio issues, but with that said, thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe below.